Okay. No, I'm on also. And now I have to shut this down, right? Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. And now this one. Got it. What? Damn it. Okay, cool. I think we're set now. And then this is maybe two. So are we set with on YouTube? You can see.
Because Tom Brady went to know the Super Bowl. It's a fantastic, it's an incredible story. You can root against.
Hello, Jeff.
How are you, George?
Good.
Morning.
Shut your door.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
George, you never got down to see the setup we had in the Global Center yesterday, did you?
No, I did not.
It was quite something.
Huh. Where were you? What room were you in?
We were in the atrium ballroom.
Oh, okay. I should have gotten down there. I did not. I forgot about it.
It was quite a setup with the technology.
Everybody was pretty happy with the meeting.
Well, we had some technical glitches was the only problem. I don't know that was because of the we had just rehearsed it, but there were connection issues. And because what was happening is we were connecting the Global Center technology with the county's technology on the live stream.
Yeah.
Zoom. It was difficult to do.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Trevor.
Morning.
We were talking to the mayor yesterday, and he was on his way down to Ohio State to see his daughter, who goes to Maryland, play Ohio State. And the mayor played for Ohio State. So he's showing up at the game in his Maryland gear.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't attend yesterday, George. I had a mediation in Chardon all day.
Understand.
Morning.
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 How'd the game turn out?
Terrible. Well, beautiful of you, Ohio State, which I am. Terrible of you from Maryland.
All right. Well, you had both sides covered.
Yeah. I was in a conflicted position.
Yeah. A love of Ohio State, watching your daughter play for.
Right. And people didn't know what to do with me. Do we have, is everybody here? Julie, how are we doing on folks?
Shonda, we don't have as many the board members yet.
Okay.
Hold on for a few minutes.
Hey, Mayor, what colors did you wear to the game?
Oh, I was in all Terp stuff. That's why I was conflicted. And then a lot of my guys I played with came to the game, right? And so at halftime, sitting behind the turf bench, they said they waved me because they sitting courtside. They said, "Come on over here," right? We're taking these big pictures, all of us, right? People with cameras taking these pictures of us all lined up together. And I'm the only one in Terp stuff. Then my daughter comes over and joins the picture. It's like, this is crazy. And they're like, okay, we kind of get it now. Funny. Yeah, funny.
What do you think of that Schottenstein Arena? Is that,
Oh, it's very nice.
yeah,
Probably too big for what they need.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it's funny because Ohio State has, I did a lot of work consulting down there. They have 4 divisions where they put their facilities, and all of them are not for profit except for the one division which is for profit. And the only one that doesn't make money is the for profit,
oh, wow.
which is what the Schottenstein is actually in. It's
Oh, is
separate.
that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it is.
Mayor, did you play in St. John's?
St. John's. Yep, St. John's. Yep. That's probably about the right size. 15,000, 14, 15,000, probably the right size for them. You know, you have a couple of years where you go up 18 maybe, but truth to power is probably 15.
Uh-huh.
Particularly since they were building 2 arenas at the same time down there.
Yeah, they're basically that nationwide. Yeah, right. So they're caught in.
Although typical for Columbus, in my opinion, Jeff may disagree with this. They've got a notion of how to do big civic projects that is nearly totally backwards. And they end up having to revisit all this stuff 10 or 15 years after the fact.
Like the Crew Stadium, stuff like that, right?
Well, yeah, I'm working on Crew. I worked on Crew Stadium, and I also worked on Nationwide. So I'm not going to make any comments on this call.
Well, you know.
Well, I mean, it's true, but no, we're talking about the original Crew Stadium, which
The
was
original,
which
Crew
was a
Stadium,
dumb
right.
project.
Yeah.
That was a dumb project. The original convention center before the second expansion was a dumb project. You know, they've never done their parking garages right. And Nationwide Arena was a dumb project.
You know, Tim, the only real issue, we're getting somebody's music on here. The only issue with the Crew, I mean, the biggest issue with the Crew project is they picked the site. The site was set, and that site has cost a small fortune for the Crew project because it's in a flood zone.
Right.
And the amount of money that had to be spent to fix the flood zone, you know, it was $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Julie, how you doing?
Was
We're
that all
ready.
they could get?
We're good,
from-
Mayor.
We're okay?
Was that all the property they could get from Brian Ellis, though? And Brian sold them floodplain property.
For $2. plus a
I'm
commission.
just smiling.
Just a reminder, this is live streamed right now, I think.
That's
Let's
right.
be good. Just a friendly reminder.
You guys ready?
We're ready.
All right, let's call the meeting to order for the Cuyahoga County Convention Facilities Development Corporation. The date is Friday, January 21st, 2022. The time be reflected to be 8:37. Julie, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Matt Carroll,
Here.
David Gilbert is absent. Majid McCloof,
Here.
Trevor McAleer,
Here,
Michael Obi, Tim Oftermatt,
Here.
Mayor Sellers,
Here.
and Rashonda Smith.
Here.
All right, I ask for a motion to excuse Dave Gilbert.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, that's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? That reflect that Dave Gilbert has been excused from this, approved and excused from this meeting. You have in your possession the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was
October 22nd.
October 22nd, 2021. Before I ask for a motion, any comments, questions, concerns about these meeting minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Minutes have been moved, motion to approve the minutes. There a second?
Second.
And they've been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those minutes are approved. That's it. We will go to the portion of the agenda that gives the executive director's report.
Okay,
Turn it over to Mr. George Hillo.
Okay, the only item I have on for this report is regarding the information we got from the state auditor's department upon completing our audit. They issued a letter, and we had the option of having a meeting with them regarding the audit, and we elected not to do that because we basically had they accepted our audit, or they accepted our financial statements as prepared. They had only one comment on the financials, and that was we have a policy that anything under $2,500 we expense. If we acquire an asset that's less than $2,500, we just have a policy to expense it. They pointed out to us that in our CARES Act money, which we spent $2,067,000 on CARES Act improvements to our facility, we threw that all into one bucket and did not expense the items that were less than $2,500. When they looked at that, they found about $18,000 that was less than $2,500 that they felt we should have expensed, but they were not that. They did not propose adjustment for that. They let it go because it was not material. We felt that we wanted to keep it all together. In other words, we wanted to keep all the CARES Act money together, and that's what we spent for the improvements. And that's why we did not expense those items. They were okay with that. They agreed. No adjustment was made. The financial statements were accepted as we prepared them. So we closed off that. So that was the only item I have, is that our audit was clean. We had a clean opinion. That's it. That's all we had. Any questions about that?
Questions for George?
George, I forget, did CCCFDC get any shuttered venues dollars?
Get any what?
Shuttered venues operators grant dollars?
No.
Okay. So none of the dollars you got were subject to a single audit?
No.
Okay.
The only ones we got were the CARES Act funding.
It was from us, Tim. The county gave them the money.
Okay. Yeah, and none of that was subject to a single audit. Okay. Because the shuttered venues stuff is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we did not. We had $2 million and it was fine. Everything was fine. The audit was clean. I think the auditors always like to have put out a little something. They did not make any adjustments.
All right.
Okay.
Other questions for George?
George, for the amount, the $18,000 and the subsequent items, was there just a footnote or something like that made in the audit?
No, we did not have to footnote it or anything. It was too immaterial. It was a very small amount compared to our financial statements.
Thank you.
So they're not required to do anything with it.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, the design project update. So as you know, and I'm going to turn to George here in a second, but as you know, this board has been looking at the Global Center and its usage and projecting a direction for the Global Center. Now that obviously the way we had been operating has changed. We've been working in conjunction with a number of entities across the board, especially Dave Gilbert and Destination Cleveland, participating in their study about the Convention Center District, and then which unfolded some what we thought was some opportunities for this board to consider. We've had previous discussions about that at these meetings. We thought it was time to give you a design project update of what we feel the direction that we should be thinking about pursuing would be. At this time, let me go to George, and then we're going to open up the floor here. So, George, you want to take it?
Yep. Julie, can you put the schedule on? Yeah, thank you. So what we wanted to do was we've been talking about it. We've reviewed all the plans, different types of plans. We haven't made any decisions yet, but we just wanted to get it off of get it kind of moving down the road a little bit. So what we did was we looked at the renovation cost. And the total cost is broken down into what we broke it down to about 4 categories here. 21 million, 20 million for the junior ballroom expansion, and 2.2 million for level 3 and 2.2 million for level 4, for a total of about 46 million. Now, how do we pay for this? What? And again, this is purely conceptual. We're just trying to, start the process. The CCCFDC would contribute $5 million out of our reserve account for this expansion. We would look to the county for possibly matching that 5 million with a contribution to it. We have about $2 million in the naming rights fund. So that would leave us 34 million to make up the 46 million. So 34 million, we're proposing possibly a bonding of the 34 million. If we bond the 34 million, that would create payments of about, over 20 years, would create payments of about, the next item down is $2.4 million a year. We would propose to divide that with the county and with the CCCFDC out of our funds, and that would be 1.2 million each. The county could have the naming rights money as a contribution of their portion. So this is, again, it's conceptual. It's just how we, just an idea as to how we might be able to make this happen. And just to get it going and get it thinking about it. The next item we have is to show budgetary, how this would work. Julie, can you put the next slide up? All right, this is, what we start with here is the beginning of the year. This is the fund balances in our reserve accounts. And as of beginning of 2022, we have 11,800,000 in that, in our reserve account. Does everybody see that number at the top there?
Mm-hmm.
All right, then what we do is projected spending. We go to the schedule in the green, which is ASM puts together a schedule over the next 5 years as to how much they're going to need for future repairs. And again, we've always been very prudent in trying to make sure that we have enough money so we keep our convention center in tip-top shape, including things like, $600,000 for our IT department and things like that. So we have to make sure we keep it tip-top shape. So this is what ASM put together, projected spending over the next 5 years. So if you look at those items, it's 1.7 million, 1.7, 1.5, all the way across to a total of 8.7. Projected center funding. This is where we're going to take the 5 million out of our capital accounts over the next 2 years to put towards this expansion. So we do 2.5 million in 22 and 2.5 million in 23. If you follow me just down that schedule. Then in the third year, in 2024,
So you're already factoring in the kind of the one-time 5 million there,
Yes.
and you're still in 2026 with 5.1 million.
in 2026, yes, that's the
Yeah.
5 million.
Okay.
Yep, that's the 5 million. There's where it comes from. It comes out in 2 years.
I didn't realize you were already, okay, thank you for that.
We got it in there. Then we factor in 2024 the payment. So we would pay 1.2 million a year going out 20 years. So we pull that out. And then we have the amount we put in for our capital funding each year of 2.1 million. And that's what we're putting in each year for the next, 5 years, 2.1 million. And the idea behind this is I want to take a look to say, hey, can we afford this? Can we still stay positive? And if you look at the end of the year, we're still positive, even out into 2026. We're making these contributions and doing this. We still have a $5 million positive reserve account. And again, that's for future repairs. So this is just conceptually what we're thinking of doing as a possibility. I just want to get it off, dead set, and say, what can we do this? And these numbers show we can do it.
Questions for, first of all, let me ask, is everybody clear why we've gone through this exercise? Why we're going through this exercise? Now, some of you have participated in some of the meetings, but I want to make sure all the board members are clear why we're doing this.
Mayor, if you could give me the 30-second spiel on why we're doing it, that would be helpful.
Ron, I'll give you a minute spiel if you want it, right?
All right, take that liberty.
So we're here. The Global Center, as it was originally constituted, has been a failure. It has not worked, right, to the level that I think everyone who originally came up with the conceptual idea thought, right? So we are, no more tenants are in the building, right? And so we are now left with a building that does not do what it was really designed to do. So either we leave it as a shell as it is now, or we make some modifications to correct the current conditions, right? And so we participated in a study with Dave Gilbert's group and brought in this world-renowned consultant to look at not just the convention center district, but we looked at this facility. And it has been determined through that study that the facility that we have is really best used to be used in conjunction with the convention center, right? And this is how we think we can churn that revenue that was projected originally from the Global Center, right? And so we have gone through the exercise. It's kind of basically pointed us in the direction that we need to make some modifications to this building so it can be used, basically, because right now I don't think it can be used in any great fashion. And not just used, but become an economic asset is I think what we've been trying to do. And this has been an intensive study. And we are now at a point where we took the conceptual idea and then flushed out cost and timelines, knowing what some parameters are. There's some things floating out here in the public sphere that could impact us moving forward on this. There's a real opportunity out there, a couple opportunities out there that we could jump on. But we felt like it was time to come off the sideline and say, okay, here's our story. Let the board know what's going on, and then take feedback from that angle. So that's my quick spiel. If anybody else wants to say anything, you can jump in right now.
Mayor, if I can, this is Trevor. Just to add, going back even 3 or 4 years ago, what caused the study that you referenced, right? We got the kind of group of the Dave Gilberts and some hotel people and others where they put together an analysis just of available meeting room space. And I think Ron can probably talk a little bit about this more, but that's really what I would say sparked this discussion with our lack of available meeting room space and being able to expand for the conventions into the Global Center. And we know we've lost conventions because of the lack of meeting room space. I think Ron and his team have heard that over the years. So I would say that's probably what really,
that's true.
Going back 4 years ago or so that started this conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah, Mayor, I think we just point out, we started this whole process with the highest and best use study. So
right.
What happened was we actually, we engaged in the highest and best use study. We did the highest and best use study. We hired CSL to do the highest and best use study. The highest and best use study demonstrated that this was the highest and best use, particularly because there was a need for the meeting space that we're actually talking about. After we did the highest and best use study, and after we retained CSL, Dave Gilbert's group, then also they then retained CSL, and they took it from just the highest and best use study for our building and our needs, which would have justified this alone, and then they expanded it to sort of a district-wide study. So that's actually the timeline for how this occurred.
Yes.
I'm sorry, George, I was going to say this, or Ron, let everybody know what's going on in the building today.
Today, nothing. In the Global Center, Starbucks is open. George is in his office, and that's the size of it. In the convention center, we're preparing for a cheer event, but that's it.
Well, I was thinking as the tenants that used to be upstairs. Remember that? Just
so we do have. Thank you, Mayor. We do have our best client has become the Cuyahoga County Courts of Common Pleas, and they're up on the 4th floor, and they're doing jury selections from our 4th floor. But that's really it right now.
And the health innovation tenants, where are they?
They're gone.
They're gone.
So So as we
Guys,
walk back through time, I'm glad you guys
yeah.
reminded me, as we walk back through time, this has been a long time coming, right? And so, and then a lot of it, Jeff, was really based upon, remember, our own people who were using us, telling us, you know, where we were lacking, right? And so it just snowballed from there. From the fact that tenants were leaving, and then we figured out exactly what direction we're going to try to point the ship.
Mayor, I
The one
might
thing
add,
the one thing that's interesting about this building is it's absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous facility. And every time we get event planners in here, they just fall in love with the Global Center. I mean, it's just such a beautiful facility. It's with the windows and everything. And so we think it's just going to be such a home run as a meeting room space.
but Mayor, I might add that we had Destination Cleveland had a client advisory board meeting here a couple of months ago. And we talked about this concept and showed some of the conceptual diagrams and did a tour with the client advisory board, and they absolutely loved it unanimously. And in fact, Travis was just at a meeting in Las Vegas with, it's called Professional Conference Management Association. Many of our client advisory board members were there, and they were asking Travis for updates on the project. So our clients and potential clients are very excited about this possibility.
Guys, sort of from my perspective, if we could just, I think the way I look at this, regardless of how we got here, what we have is somewhat of an existential issue that we need to address, because doing nothing about it, if we just remain as we are, we're losing business. It's not just the opportunity to increase the revenue. It's that the revenue that we have is going to shrink because of the competition, because of the facility getting old. So in many ways, this is an existential thing that we have to do. But if you could, sort of quickly, instead of, how we got here, we are where we are and we have to do this. I think I'm more focused on, if we can just update the board on the meeting. I think it's ASAE, or what I always get the acronym wrong for who is coming here, when they're coming, why it's important to have it done then. And number two, it struck me when George did the having interest rate at 4%. We all know, I mean, I'll defer to Tim and others who know this much better than I do, but you don't have to know much to know that interest rates are going up. Now, maybe that's already all factored into interest rates today. I don't know the answer to that, but it seems to me the longer we wait on this, one, we have a meeting that we have a deadline by when we have to have the work finished, and two, the longer we wait to go out to the market, the more it's going to cost us to get it done. If somebody can quickly talk about that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
I'm going to make one comment before on the first part. We've all focused on that meeting. We're essentially getting onto the critical path now. We have to commence the design efforts if we're going to make that all critical meeting. And Ryan, you can take a second to talk about that meeting that we're targeted for. But we have to move forward with design if we're going to make that schedule.
Sure, Jeff. Majid, you got the acronym correct. It is ASAE, American Society of Association Executives. In our world, it is like hosting the Super Bowl. It is a competitive bid process that we, Cleveland, with Destination Cleveland and myself, went to Washington, D.C. and made a presentation, and we beat much larger cities, much more popular cities, to be able to host this in August of 2024. The reason it's important is it is all of the decision makers on where they decide where they're going to host their meetings in the future. So that meeting is August of 2024. It would be to be able to show something new and to be able to unveil the Global Center as the convention center expansion would be a home run for us as a destination.
All right. Any other questions? All right. So let me see. What are we doing here? We are. Well, here. Let me ask this. Everybody's interpretation, right? Is this something that this group wants to really pursue, to Jeff's question, right? Because either you get in the water, or you don't here, right? We're getting real close here. I mean, we are here. I'd like to hear some feedback from people on the board here. Is this something that you feel like we should be pursuing?
Well, Mayor, I'll start. This is Tim. You know, as Majid just hinted to, you know, notwithstanding the history of the facility, you know, we see opportunities that are causing us to determine whether we move now or not. You know, I think those opportunities are a low interest rate environment, the fact that there's some cash stored up to some degree, again, notwithstanding the history, you know, the county and CCCFDC are fortunate that we don't have to seek additional property and build something new to make this happen. Because if we did, we would likely be spending a lot more. Maybe it would be prohibitive and we'd never be able to meet our time schedule to get this meeting in Cleveland and have it be the huge success that it can be. It'll be a success anyway, but it will be a huge success if we're able to get this done timely, because it will cause other meetings, perhaps many other meetings, to choose Cleveland instead of our peer group.
Hey, Mayor, let me make one comment. I want to add one thing to this. There's a downside if we don't get started, because if we're going to do this, we can't be halfway through this during that convention.
Right.
So we either have to start it and get it done for that convention, or we're going to be waiting years to successfully do this, because you can't have a half built out global center when that convention takes place.
So let me ask this, Jeff, right? So knowing that, it's probably prudent for us to put together a draft of a timeline so we can back into that date, right?
I
So
think we have that done.
do we have that?
Yes.
Yes.
And what we need to do is start with the schematic drawings as soon as possible.
And as Jeff can advise us, I mean, with construction, you know, there are two things that you could do to control costs. It's time and money. So, you know, the more time we give for the design and the construction to happen, the more we can control the costs. Once we start, you know, giving the builder a more crunched timeline to build it, they can get it done, but the cost is going to be higher too. So I think every day that we wait here, we're paying for it.
Yeah, right. In one way or another, correct.
We would ideally, Jeff, and you can comment on this, ideally like the board to approve it, that we could at least go forward with the drawings. And that's not committing to the whole project. At least it's committing to getting the drawings going.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a given. The board knows my position on this, as I am in support. So I just put it on the record publicly, I think.
Yeah, George, this is Ellis Katz at PMC. I mean, just for clarity, design's going to take a good deal of time to get done. If we started now, it would be done in October, and then construction can start immediately thereafter. That construction period is going to be at least 12 months. So that gets us into about March or April of the year of this conference. So, and you need time to shake it out, get it operating properly, et cetera. So time is of the essence.
That's why I say that we are on the critical path now in this design phase. Ellis, there's about $1 million associated with the, remind me of the amount we would have to spend in the next 8 months, let's say.
Well, in the next 8 months, it's a little over $1 million. To get to a guaranteed price to start construction, Jeff, it's about 2.1 million, because it's design fees, and we're going to have to bring on a design builder through an public RFQ process and pay for their pre-con services to help with estimating.
I'm just talking about the amount that we would, put at risk for several months to keep the timeline before this bond is approved. Because we would obviously, if we engage right now and start the designer, we're at risk of doing that without the assurance that the rest of this gets done.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. It's going to be a significant amount. It's going to be more than $1 million. It's going to be closer to 2.
And when do you think, I mean, I know there's no way to time this, but to go out to the market for the bond issuance with interest rates moving in the direction that they seem to be moving?
Tim, did you
Let
have a
Tim talk
comment
about
on that?
Well, that's completely up to the county. I mean, we've got very little control over that. That would be a question that would have to go to the county.
But we know,
Questions?
the thing that I'm thinking about is that we know we have to do something with the building. The building's empty right now. We're going to be doing something. We've done all our homework to see what's the highest and best use, and on and on and on. And I just would like to get at least started in this project. I think it's very important. I would like to see the board approve us, at least go forward with the schematic drawings.
Right.
Ellison, I'm sorry, Mayor, Ellison or Jeff, how much do you think the board would have to commit to at this point, the entirety of a schematic of an agreement with architects to do schematic design? How much would we have to commit to a design builder or whoever the general contractor, however the general contract is going to be structured to do pre-con work? How much do you think how much will the board have to commit right now to get this thing going?
So keep in mind that any contract that we would enter into we would have a termination for convenience clause. So we would start out and we could tell you kind of what the monthly cost would be. We could terminate on, 30 days notice. We'd have to pay everybody up till that point in time. The only thing I would say is, I'll make one other comment. We're pretty convinced that this has to be done now or in the future. The worst case would be that we start on the design, we spend X amount of dollars, and then we find out that we would, for whatever reason, this isn't put in place in time, it's put on hold. You have the event, eventually you start it up again, you still have the benefit of the design you've done, because the presumption is that design is going to work whenever. So it still would be, it wouldn't be a lost investment, it would be a suspended investment. But Ellis, do you want to, just on your timeline for schematic design, let's say, because we don't have to go all the way to the GMP, but just talk about, let's say, 6 months of effort in schematic design on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I mean, really, it on a monthly basis, we did a cash flow, and it's about $200,000 a month, Tim. So 6 months would be 1.2 million.
That's why I'm talking about 1.2 million.
Right, but that won't get you to the point where you can procure bonds on a GMP. That's why I was saying too. That's my only point about that. So
right. I understand that. Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
All right.
And Jeff's right. We can terminate at any time.
What, Trevor, Matt, you want to weigh in here? You got thoughts? You guys have thoughts?
Yeah, it's Matt. I know our fiscal office was kind of looking at the financial possibilities and what a budget might look like, and I don't think that's been finalized yet. I think obviously that's one important step to see if that's to see if that kind of plan is feasible. I believe that was the last conversation. I don't know, Trevor, is that right?
Yeah, I was hoping we can go to the prior slide, Mayor, just to for the record and anyone watching, the one that showed the summary. Yeah, right here. Yeah. So just in case those that aren't really familiar with this kind of financial model, the one-time cost to the county is the $5 million, the county special fund account on this slide. I think the important part to note here is in terms of paying back the debt, the 1.2 million of annual increase in county sales tax collections that would go to the annual debt service, that is the number that we received from the study, Mayor, that you referenced earlier, the impact to the county. So if we do this project, that will be the increased revenue that we see in sales tax revenue. The city will also see a financial benefit to that, which I know we didn't really get into discussion purposes here, but I think for those listening that are curious, will it be a general fund expense and whatnot? We are projecting based off the study that we did that we're going to see an increase in revenue through sales tax and some bed tax. So our debt service would right now be projected to be paid back from those increased revenues. So I just want to think that's pretty important to know for those.
Plus the naming rights, Trevor.
Yes, right.
Plus the naming rights.
And, you know, I think both Matt and I are, you know, kind of in different positions, right? We sit as board members and also serve, you know, our respective bosses, you know, as a board member. And, you know, we've talked about this over the last year plus, right? I mean, I think this project makes sense. As you walk through that, the Global Center right now, you know, it's empty, right? We were over there yesterday for a Justice Center Steering Committee, and that was pretty much the only people outside of those at the line at Starbucks. And we tried a couple different things. It hasn't worked over the last decade. And based off the feedback that we're getting from those that hold conventions, that this is the route to go. And I mean, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but I think we have to do this either now or, you know, preferably now, or if we can't get it done in time, we couldn't start it. But this makes sense, and I think this will have a significant benefit for years to come.
And I would just add that procedurally, of course, you know, once a financial plan was sort of settled on and everybody was comfortable with it, if that happened, then of course the administration, if it was ready to go, it would move forward with legislation to council. You know, there's various things that have to go through the, you know, council review and potential approval process. So, I mean, from a CCCFDC board perspective, that, you know, that's just a question. Do you want to get ahead of that process? Because that's sort of obviously has to happen before a project like this could happen.
So I Matt and Trevor, appreciate that. I guess the thinking is this, that you know, we can't stay pat as where we are now, right? So we probably should be pushing forward on the design side of this, right? This is my expertise in this matter. Just tells me that you got to go forward on one. You're not going to lose, right? But you got to work the other side of the room too at the same time, right? But we can't wait for the other one to occur first, because we'll lose out on this side of it. So the question really before the board is this: do you want to make the investment in the after all our due diligence, do you want to invest in the design work now and get that kind of going, right? As we continue to pursue the other side of the aisle too. You know, for me, I would say yes. I would think it would be a wise investment, right? But that's me speaking. Right.
And I would second that. I'm very conscious even of the sensitivity of this, of the county thinking that we're getting ahead of them. And we would never want to do that. But I think we've been very, you know, we've had repeated discussions with the county. They're very aware of this. They're very aware of the importance of this. And the, you know, for clarity, we're not trying to get ahead of anybody. It's just the schedule here, the timeline is pushing us to do what we need to do. So from that perspective, I am in support, but I also want the county to know that just because we're in support, and we're not trying to create facts on the ground to strong arm the county. That's not what we're doing. It's just the timeline is forcing us to do what we have to do.
So Jeff, to speak to Majid's point, so everyone knows, if we miss this window here, right? When will this project go?
Well, if we miss the window, I mean, let me say this: we could obviously continue without impacting the building complete the design, get to the GMP. But, and I'll turn to Ron on this, I don't think you would want to be disrupting that building, because even if we don't do this project, I still think we're going to want to use the Global Center and the atrium for that event. Isn't that right, Ron?
You're correct, Jeff. ASAE have the Global Center as it is now under contract. So we would not want to impact that event.
So we could not start construction until that event is over.
Which is,
And that would also impact, this budget would be out the window, because obviously we're then extending the construction phase a couple of years, and who knows where we'll be on construction costs. We'd extend the design team. So it would, we'd delay the project by a couple of years and costs would go up. And that also means we couldn't use the new facility for other events for a couple of years. So it's the building would, we'd lose all the revenue opportunity that would come immediately after this event.
In the meantime, our competitors are going through with their work, whether it's in Lexington or other places, and we're losing our position in the marketplace and having to restart from a lower position when we're able to get there. And I think I don't want to lose sight of that too.
Yeah, the other point that we've made in other meetings is we needed, regardless of the Global Center, even if the Global Center didn't exist, we need this meeting space to stay up with other facilities.
Yep.
And all of our competitors are putting huge amounts of money into their facilities. So we would be losing market share by waiting.
Does anybody have that ready, sort of what Lexington and the other, what those numbers are, just because we're live streaming so that the public knows what we're talking about when
they're in the feasibility, they're in the studies that were done by CSL. So we have it. I don't know if anyone can put it up, but we know the large amounts of money that are going into competing facilities right now. I don't know.
So anything that we're putting here is negligible compared to what our competitors are investing in their
absolutely.
facilities. Sorry, Trevor, I cut you off a couple of times.
No, Majid, I was actually gonna say that, because I don't know if that study has been, I don't remember, did we fully present that to the entire board?
I thought we did.
we did that a couple meetings ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, John,
I've seen it 20 times, so I couldn't.
I know, right?
Three or four examples of other investments. I remember. Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I opened it up, guys. Milwaukee, Wisconsin's doing a $420 million expansion. Kentucky International Convention Center is doing a $207 million expansion. Oklahoma City is doing a $288 million expansion, along with more hotel rooms. So those are just some of the examples that was in that presentation.
Yeah, we're fortunate to be able to get as much bang out of our dollar, compared to them.
So if those facilities open and then we sort of fall off the radar, and then you're having to, then when we do the investment and we're trying to get back on the market, we're getting back on the market from a much lower place than where we're lowering the base by which we can compete with our competitors. So it's, in every way that you think of this, time is really money here. The one thing I would just say, I know we are all just, I know we formally didn't do it, but we have to conceptually, as a board, and stop thinking of that building as the Global Center. Stop calling it that.
Right.
It's the entryway to our convention center. It's part and parcel of the convention center. I know I've seen the term atrium. I don't know if I like calling the entryway the atrium, but whatever it is. But I think we just have to stop calling it the Global Center, because every time we just keep perpetuating this.
We need a swear jar. Majid.
Yeah, it is part and parcel of the convention center. It's the entryway. It's the front entryway to our convention center.
Yeah,
You're right. It's the convention center.
Yeah,
I mean that's what it is. Especially if we do this, right? I mean, when we do this,
Right.
it's the convention center.
Let me ask
that's
you.
so much forward.
And George, here's a question, George. So
yeah,
we know what this would cost to your slide right here, right?
Yeah.
So if we wait, Jeff, and do it after that convention, what's this thing gonna cost then?
Well,
decide to come.
we've been using, and I think it's light, but we've been saying that every year of inflation right now in the construction industry, you can start by adding 6% a year to that cost. And there's some suggestion it could even be higher than that. But we used to use 4, now we're using 6. And that's assuming, by the way, just keep in mind that that's assuming that we're still able to attract available labor and contractors. If infrastructure money gets loose and a lot of other projects are going on, competition as we go forward is only going to get greater. I mean, there's just nothing good that comes from waiting. It's going to be expensive.
So the $46 million was going to total out to be what?
Say it again.
The $46 million that we're looking at this project, we wait. You were just talking about a total of 6% on top of that?
Well, the construction part
every
of it,
year.
yeah, 6% a year.
Yeah. So.
And it costs are going up in both front. I mean, in terms of the cost of labor, the cost of construction, and the cost of the money in terms of interest rates going. Yeah. So on both ends of the equation, things are going up.
We're here every day. We work here, and to see this building empty right now is it's just a sad thing. I would really encourage the board to go forward, at least to start the project and do the drawings.
Let me ask this question, guys. George and Jeff, what do you need from the board? Do you need us to vote on this now? What would it take for at least the schematic designs or the initial architectural work to commence? Because we don't have a negotiated contract with the architect, do we?
Hey, Ellis.
Yeah.
The initial work they did, I don't even remember right now. They did it off of a letter agreement. We never finalized the contract with them, right?
We have a draft contract in place, and we have a firm proposal in place from the architect.
But the work they did was based on a letter. So we were in the process. We have the contract ready, a contract ready to go. We have pricing from them. What we would do, I think, is we would proceed with them to finalize a contract and then come back to you as a board to approve a signed, contract that they would have agreed to.
And that's the concern that I have here is if we sort of do a vote now, are we, taking away their leverage to negotiate pricing? I mean, you're almost going to them after you've approved their pricing to say, hey, negotiate the pricing down.
Yeah, right. I think what you would be doing is you would be authorizing us to proceed to see if we can come to final terms, with the understanding that we would then come back to you with the proposed contract that they would agree to. There's no contract yet for you to approve, but we obviously stopped this process because, we went as far as we could go without knowing that the project was going forward.
Okay, so let's do this, right? Yeah, I think everybody knows where we are. Let's do this, right? So I'm going to ask for a motion to pursue the going to the design phase here first. Secondly, I'm going to ask for a motion to, just as Jeff spoke to, negotiate with the architect, finalize an agreement with the architect to bring back to this board final review to try to finally get us off center. Thirdly, motion from this board to formally pursue with the county this project. Right, we're gonna put it because we're here. We are right here, right? Either we go now, or we don't go at all.
Not sure what Robert's rules allow, but I'll make those 3 motions.
I'll take them one at a time. The first motion is.
It doesn't matter.
The motion is,
Gene, for the benefit of my associate who's trying to take notes of this meeting, let's try to state them. She'll be
right. I'm asking for a motion on this motion to pursue the design schematic process to get us going on the design of this expansion project. That's what I'm asking. That's my first motion that I'm asking for.
The only question that I have, isn't that and the second one the same effectively, because we're effectively asking the PMC to pursue the schematic design and the negotiations with the architect. Could those be combined into one motion? Does that make sense?
It could be, but I want them to be real clear.
Yeah,
What people
that's fine.
vote for here. All right. Real
So
clear.
moved.
All right. So there's a motion.
I'll, whether that's one motion or two, I'll second it.
All right. So moved and seconded. Julie, I want a roll call here.
Okay. Matt Carroll,
Yes.
Majid McClure,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Sellers.
Yes. So that allows us, Jeff, to go forward and start the process for the design schematics. Second motion I'm asking for is authorization to give Jeff and PMC the authority to start to negotiate a draft contract with the architects that we've been working with on this project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Julie, roll call, please.
Matt Carroll,
Yes.
Majid McClure,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Sellers.
Yes. Thirdly, confusing myself here. The third motion is to formally engage with the county authority to formally engage with the county a discussion to bring this project to not fruition, but bring this project to the forefront here, right? A real authority here to sit down and say, authorize us to sit down with the county, so everyone is on the same page here. Is there a motion?
Mayor, just out of, do we need that? I'm just curious of what, I mean, is that
You
just,
know, Trevor, I just want us to be firm here, like, okay, that we're all in agreement that this is what needs to happen, right?
as the
Right.
as the board?
As the board, right? So,
All right,
so we,
I'll move that then.
okay, thanks, Trevor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, before I do the roll call, be clear that we've had discussions with the county in the past in a formal way, so they're not unaware that we have been tracking this, right? But now I want to make sure that we've done everything we've done on our side. Now it's time to say either we're going to do it or not, right? Or figure out a way. So, all right, so it's been moved and seconded. Julie, give me a roll call, please.
Matt Carroll,
Yes.
Majid McClure,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith,
Yes.
and Mayor Sellers.
All right, thank you guys very much. So those items have all been moved and approved. So
Mayor,
we
can I
will.
can
Go
I
ahead,
ask a
Trevor.
question just on the
Trevor.
architect? Jeff or Ellis, just for the record, can you, just for the public, remind everyone how the architect was selected?
Yeah, we went through a process. We put out a request for qualifications. We received qualification statements back. We had interviews, and we went through a traditional quality-based selection process.
And
Thank you.
Jeff, timeline, that was how long ago?
Boy, Ellis, when did we do that? I'm losing track of time right now.
That was back in the fall of 2020.
2020.
And the board was involved in this. A number of us sat on the selection committee and
Correct.
did the scoring and it was a formal process.
Yeah, we followed the same process in essence that the county would have followed, Trevor.
Yep. No, I know that. I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that because it was a long time ago and we already are talking about engaging the same architect. So I just wanted to make it for the record that we did bid
Right.
this out.
Yeah, your board shortlisted firms, you interviewed them, and then you made the selection.
Yeah, I think we delayed because I think we were going through some due diligence to figure out exactly. We're waiting for that CSL study and everything else to come back, right? So that's what the delay between A and B were, right? So, all right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right. Thank you guys for that. Let's go to the Convention Center update. Ron King.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking back at 2021, just a few highlights I wanted to point out. Number one, and we'll go more into the financials here in a moment, but the best one I think is that we operated $1.5 million under budget. We hosted the NFL draft of 2021. We opened the convention center with Today's Bride Show in April of 2021. And between August and November, we hosted 12 events. What's nice about that is those are all repeat events. So those are events that will continue to come back. One of the events, the Ceramics Expo, was an event that was out at the IX Center and now has found a permanent home with us downtown. So we're very happy about that. We completed about $3 million in capital improvement projects, which includes a wireless infrastructure project. We hosted 58 events that represented about $2.1 million in license fees, about $2 million in food and beverage, and over 98,000 attendees. And I mentioned this earlier, but our best client of the year was the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas, which we've hosted throughout the year and will continue to host for at least the next 6 months. This was mentioned earlier, some of our key accomplishments. We reopened after spending about $2.2 million in the CARES Act funding that was given to us by the county. We completed, just as we just spoke about, the CS&L study that just allowed the board to move forward. Our sales team booked about 83 events into 2021 and future years, which represents $3.7 million in license fees, about $2.6 million in food and beverage, over 91,000 hotel rooms, and 255,000 attendees. And Julie, if you can go to the next slide.
Hey, Ron, while you're moving from one slide to another, how far out into the future are you in terms of your bookings these days?
You know, Travis is on the line. I'm going to say we're going out 5 years, 5 and 6 years now.
Yeah,
one thing that's
I'm sorry, Ron. We have stuff all the way out into 2029 that we're bidding on now.
So, and one thing that happened, and I'll say this, and I'm sorry, David Gilbert couldn't make the meeting. We have seen a big shift in what Destination Cleveland has done. Used to, our bookings were inside of 2 years, which for a convention market is not very good. Typically, big conventions book 3 to 5 years out. We have seen with some changes at Destination Cleveland, that window is expanding, which is great for all of us, because now the convention center and the hotels can have a book of business and then be additive on top of that out into the future. So it's great for Cleveland that that's happening. Some of the awards and certifications that we were able to get, we earned LEED Gold recertification, and we earned our GBAC Star recertification. We implemented the ASM Global Venue Shield program, and we were named in 2021 Facilities and Destination Star Facility. So that was all 2021. Like Groundhog Day, you know, it still wasn't as strong as we had hoped it would be with the unknowns in the pandemic. And again, Groundhog Day, here we go with 2022. But we're off to a good start. I will say in 2022, when we put the budget together, we had about a $1 million reach in revenue. And that quickly changed to about a $1.6 million reach in revenue with cancellations because of COVID. And supply chain, I should add. That being said, again, we have signed up the courts, so that's helped us tremendously. So we're back down now to about a $1 million reach that Travis has to find in business to get us home.
Ron, how long are the courts signed up through right now?
Through
June 30th.
Through June?
June 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love having them over here, Trevor, and they seem to like it here. So
We love it over there.
You know, I would tell you, they've really been a great client of ours. We've loved hosting them. But just this last weekend, we hosted over 300 teams for JVA volleyball, and that was about 10,000 attendees. The good news on JVA volleyball is they want to expand and double their length of stay here, so that in the future, they're looking at starting that as soon as next year. They have several teams that they can't fit in to their tournament, so we're looking at doubling the amount of time that they're here starting next year, so that'll be great for us. And of course,
Ron,
we're going to be.
Can I ask a question on that? On an event like that for volleyball throughout the weekend, how do how do we do on like a concessions? Like, do we do, is it, I gotta think it's pretty good, but how do we do it?
And Steve Wells, if you're on, we do very well. In fact, Trevor, we did so well that we ran out of product in Starbucks, so we'll never be doing that.
You're gonna make a killing, Trevor, right? Because
Yeah.
when they travel with the entire family, right?
Yep.
You're there for 10, 12 hours, right? Right. And then facilities, what they do is limit what you can bring in from the from the
That's right.
hotel. And they drive
That's
you
right.
right to those concessions and you make a kill. $7 water bottles, right? This is kind of hey,
Not
Tim,
quite as much.
Tim, I'm scarred. I know it.
Yeah, we don't allow families to bring their coolers in and sit down and have their lunch. We make them buy our food. And I know the Hilton was very busy over the weekend as well. So a lot of these folks were travel people, and we were really thrilled that they kept as strong as they did with everything going on with COVID. And of course, we'll be
Ron,
one of the several. Go ahead.
It's Tim once again. And I know you've got a lot to go through, but I'm interested in a question for either you or Travis, or maybe both of you. The investments that CCCFDC and ASM are focused on in tech, how is that helping? And I think I know the answer to this, but I'd love for you to let everyone know how that's helping you market your facility, given how meeting planners and companies are all viewing the future of the event business.
Right. Great question, Tim. We actually made a couple of changes here. One is, and I'll let Mike chime in if he needs to. One is that we are just finishing a infrastructure upgrade in all of our wireless, so that the wireless has been upgraded. And Mike, I forget from what to what, maybe you remember?
Yeah, basically we're going from being able to do 1 gig up to 10 gigs. So we're basically increasing our capacity tenfold.
The other change that we made, Tim, is we have a new AV provider, Mills James, and I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they actually even have studios in downtown Cleveland. So they have the ability to set up a studio or to stream anywhere in the convention center. Plus, on top of that, if one of the clients needs an actual studio just over here on West 9th, they have a full production television studio that we can utilize as well. So those are some of the changes that we've made without, quite frankly, without having to build a TV studio here within the facility that may or may not get used very often. So it gives us I would say, maximum flexibility with those two improvements that we've made. So good question. We will serve as one of the hosts for the NBA All-Star Weekend. Right now, we're doing Legends Lunch and a Legends Brunch, I believe. Mayor Sellers, are you going to those?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be at one of those. I got a lot going on that weekend.
Yeah. And then some of the challenges and opportunities, we thought it's worth pointing this out. We're going to have new local political leadership, including a new mayor and county executive. Don't see that really as a challenge, but more as an opportunity. There's ongoing convention industry health department concerns with what's going on with COVID. And again, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Just as everyone else is, meeting the staffing operational requirements in our labor market is proven to be difficult. But we continue to work on that and to try to think outside of the box. And then continue on the progress on the Global Center redevelopment. So those are really kind of our challenges and opportunities as we see it for 2022. And just real quick, I mentioned this earlier, but
you owe me 5 cents, Ron.
What's that?
You owe me 5 cents in the swear jar.
Oh, I think that's too little, Majid. I think we need to make it at least $1. So, number of events, if you look at the second column, you have what we budgeted. We came in a little under on that, but you look at our event attendance, the next one down, our attendance was much stronger than we anticipated. And when you get down to and you look at what we did in 2020, so 21 was by far a better year than 20. You get down to the bottom line on the adjusted income and loss. We budgeted a $4.6 million loss, came in at 3.1, which, as I mentioned earlier, is about 1.5 million better than budget. So we're happy with that. And then I just wanted to go to the next slide, and this is a review of 2022, just so you know kind of what we're looking at. You can go to the next slide, Julie. Thank you. So 109 events. Again, we have had some cancellations, but it's early in the year. And you get down to the bottom line, budgeted about a $3.8 million loss. Now, here's what I'm going to say about all of that. And I think the board has been with us long enough to know, look, if we don't even get the number of events, the 109, we will manage to the expense side. And that about $1 million, we beat the expense side last year by over $1 million. So that's really how we will operate. If those events don't materialize or the people don't come, then we will just manage to the expense side. So I look forward to any questions.
Questions for Ron King?
Ron, I'm just going to continue on the same theme I've been on all day, but I went on the convention center's website as we are, and surely enough, you have a whole section on the global center and all that stuff. So if you can just make sure to scrub the website and clean any references to the global center, and just one connected campus is which you already have the terminology connected campus, just but then you go on and describe it as a standalone building. So
that's got to be worth $100 in the swear jar.
So we just make sure.
All right.
We just have to completely think our mentality on this.
Any other questions for Ron?
To Majid's point there, can I, and this might be for Jeff, but in terms of the naming rights.
I was just going to go there. Trevor. Go ahead.
Okay, I can't remember if it's separate from the convention center or not. And if it is, I mean, I think we have a significant opportunity for that south west corner there, at the
yes.
Yeah.
That entrance to the
yes.
It's two things. The naming rights are separate, and to be blunt about it, Huntington did not buy or pay for the naming rights to the Global Center building. So if we extend the Huntington Convention Center to the whole complex, and the naming rights on that building are valuable because once again, it provides the opportunity for signage, vertical signage, which was not, the opportunity on the Huntington Convention Center. So I do think before I think we have to think through the naming rights, because we have not sold the naming rights to that building. And to be blunt about it, Huntington has not bought the naming rights to that building.
We are concerned that if they have two different names. The thought was initially that we would like to go to Huntington and talk to them about adding their name to the separate building for an additional fee, and that would just keep it that nice and clean and have one name for the whole building.
Well, I don't think we can negotiate that in a public meeting right now, but I wanted to point out that there is that opportunity. And I do want to look through the agreements just to see if there's any other thing unique or any other anomaly stemming from the initial separation.
And Jeff, while you're looking at that, curious if the ballrooms can have their own rooms. I mean, I know there's the center itself.
I can tell you, we were very clear when we set this up that the naming rights apply to the building, but all of the ballrooms not only can we name them, but unlike the buildings. And this also gets, by the way, into the deal between the city and the county. But not only are the naming rights to the buildings, not only do those revenues, those go to the county and city, but the naming rights to the ballrooms. If we could name a room, that money would actually go directly to CCCFDC.
Okay. So there's a potential revenue source there that we're not tapping.
That's correct.
And that would clear, so for instance, instead of calling it the Atrium Ballroom, and, I think there is an opportunity to get rid of that name and just have it whatever we name it.
That's correct, or the major, the Grand Ballroom. I mean, we could name any of the major spaces if we got a sponsor to name.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, let's go to the next one, Julie. The community meeting update. So for those, many of you know, we convened the members of the board here as part of the project with the Global Center, reimagining the Global Center, and part of Dave Gilbert's Convention Center District study. We decided to bring together many of the entities that are in this Convention Center District for a couple of district-wide meetings to start talking about opportunities and outlook on what the district that CSL study from Destination Cleveland provided. As you can see on this list that's up on the board, these are a number of people and entities that attended. I want to say for everyone, we had a great turnout for the 2 meetings that we've had. The groups are very engaged. You can see that we hit just about everyone that is in the area, right? And so some that did not come had reached out to us to arrange individual meetings, but the response was great. The energy in the room, I think, was first class. I think everyone wants to see the momentum that's been generated continue. I think that we are, George, where we are on the follow-up here on these meetings.
Well,
Right,
we don't have anything scheduled right now. We're still trying to pursue getting their, what Chantel wanted us to do was to get their
projections, right?
Yeah. And so we're still following up on that. We have not had a great response on that.
But as you can see from the list of people that showed, we hit pretty much everyone here. And I would just say that we left the room and everyone was committed to continuing to pursue this. And now part of that pursuit is some of the projects that we talk about in our own building, first and foremost, but it, led into other projects that are out here, lakefront access and some of the other things that are out here floating in the public sphere. So everyone was aware of kind of what was going on. So we went as far outside as Playhouse Square and over down to the Indians and Cavaliers and bringing everybody together. So I would just say, I want to thank everyone for that. I just want to say we want to make sure we continue that because I think we have a golden opportunity. Everyone realize we have a golden opportunity here to make this thing really, really significant. And then that even goes back to our discussions I anticipate at some point about with the city public auditorium, what they plan to do there, the mall areas as we start to tie all these pieces together. So good to have everybody in the room. So any questions on, or anybody got any comments on the public meetings before we move on? All right, just want to make sure we all were updated there. Let's go to the next slide, Julie, the Hilton update. Larry, are you on?
I am. Good morning, Mayor.
All right.
Julie, you can go to the next slide. Just a couple quick bullet points. Demand for the lodging industry overall for December and calendar year 2021, generally speaking, ended higher than expectations, primarily compared to 2020. It's still below 2019. We'll show some charts and graphs on that. Certain markets, particularly in the South and drive-to resort markets, fared much better than urban markets. Urban markets are still very reliant on grouped business and business travel, the two segments that have been a little bit lagging in terms of their recovery. As Ron mentioned, the Omicron variant certainly did impact many markets, including Cleveland. Really, the impact started being felt mid-December and is going out through January and February at this point. It's impacting both the group and the transient segments. The transient, the business travel piece, which we believe is tied to the office reopening dates, we've seen in many markets, those dates where maybe January dates have now been pushed out to March and April. There does seem to be some traction for March. So the hope is as Omicron cases start to decline across the country and market by market, that this will be a blip that will be held for January and February. But March is hopefully a mark in the sand, and that business will continue to recover for that point. And as we look for the Cleveland market, 2023 really remains the major focus. Just don't have that mega event for 2023, but there are smaller opportunities. On a market by market basis, year to date, RevPAR improved 58% over last year. That's a great number, but also shows how bad RevPAR was in 2020, but still about 17% below 2019 levels. Cleveland market did realize some more improvements on a national basis, but still is below 2019 levels. Next slide, please. What's really helped the recovery has been the holding of average rate. Occupancy has certainly been the decline as people have not traveled, but if anyone has booked a hotel room anywhere, particularly in a resort destination or market, rates are holding, and in many cases are still continue to be well above 2020 and even 2019 levels. Next slide. Again, just sort of showing that this recent decline, the slope of the line was looking very positive through the first half of December, and really the second half of December and into January. This Omicron variant has really taken some wind out of the sails of the recovery for the lodging market. Next slide. For the downtown Cleveland set, just that, RevPAR was down about 36% compared to 2019. Slope of the line does appear to be improving. If you look at, January, February, March, we were down 60, 70% compared to 2019. The slope has gotten better in the second half of the year. Any questions?
Questions for Larry?
Larry, this is Ron. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
You may want to give an update on general manager at the Hilton. I don't know that the entire board knows what's going on at that point.
Yeah, so we were very sad to hear. We learned in December that Terry Augusta, who's been with the hotel since pre-opening, back in 2016, Terry took a great opportunity. Hilton is opening up a new 1,000+ room hotel down in Atlanta, the Signia Hotel, which is a new construction hotel set to open in Q4 of 23, but more likely Q1 of 24. A great opportunity for Terry. We're sorry to see her go. A new general manager is in place, and that person will be in place in mid-February. And obviously our plan is we'll bring that person to the next board meeting. But did go through a GM search with Hilton. The new general manager coming in does have a sales and marketing background, which we believe is critical for this market and for this hotel. And we look forward to working with them. But that transition is set to occur mid-February.
Okay. Any other questions for Larry? All right, we're going to go to the next item on the agenda as we push on through the CCCFDC board seat replacement. As you know, Joe Roman retired. Seat number 7 is appointed by GCP and Destination Cleveland. So, George, you wanted to speak to it?
Yeah, we had there was a couple thoughts on that. That seat is reserved for someone from GCP or Destination Cleveland. Now we have Dave Gilbert on the board, and he was nominated by the president of council. The thought is that, so he has just a regular seat. The thought is that we could either have Dave fill that seat 7, and then appoint someone new, to his seat number 9, or not, and just go to GCP and Destination Cleveland and have them, nominate someone. So we wanted to bring that to the board's attention and get the board's thoughts on that.
Thoughts? Thoughts?
Yeah, Mayor. I mean, I about, I would say 2 years ago or so, when the council president appointed Dave, there was some discussion about him just taking over for Joe. But at that point, we were a year plus from Joe leaving the board. And, I know we really wanted to get Dave on the board. So that's why Council President Jones appointed Dave to the board. back then. So, I mean, it really is a joint
Makes-
appointment between GCP and Destination Cleveland.
I was going to say, the decision on the GCP Destination Cleveland seat is actually, we don't make that determination.
Right.
We leave that up to GCP and Destination Cleveland to decide on that. So we can't just appoint Dave to that seat.
No, but we can have some discussions about the direction they want to go, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I would say that in those discussions, you know, would you be okay with Dave taking that seat, right?
The one thing I would just say is it is worth a discussion. And I understand what you're saying, Mayor, about that. If it is possible to have representation from, and I understand there's only one slot for both, and they get to pick who fills it, but to the extent that we could have representation from both, or that they're both content with who is there, I think we would want to make sure that is something that we discuss with them. It would,
yeah.
You know, I would want to make sure that GCP feels heard on this board as well.
Yeah, no question. My thing is just, you got to have a discussion so they know that there's an opening here, and then they have to figure out, you know, what they want to do, right?
And if they're content with Dave being the person,
right.
Great. If they want, you know,
if they want Dave to be there, then there's a couple avenues. They want somebody else, that's another avenue, right? So, but they've got to be able to tell us, right? So,
it just.
so I would say, George, why don't you open the lines of communication up with GCP and Destination Cleveland and just start the process.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, again, keep in mind that they can only nominate.
Right.
The county can only nominate people. It's up to our board to approve them.
Right. So let's go. Let's get that going, because I want to get that last seat filled.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and honestly, I'm thinking of it in terms of the bigger things that we're trying to do, and the inclusiveness of everybody being on board, and the community meetings that we've been having, and we just want to make sure that everybody knows that we're reaching out to everybody and they all feel included. They're part of this process.
Absolutely.
I would agree. I think it makes sense if we could have both organizations represented on the board.
Right. Absolutely. So, all right, let's go to the next item, Julie.
Moving into executive session.
Yes. There's we need a motion to go into executive session here.
Yeah, we have a very short executive session, very, very short.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion to move into executive session?
We have to state the purpose.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to. The purpose is for, what section are we using here?
We're going to talk about the electrical services and utility services agreement. It will be very, very short.
Okay. So moved.
Motion made, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
We need a roll call on that.
Oh, that's right. This is roll call. This is roll call. I'm sorry, Joe.
G would be all over that.
Yeah. All right, Julie, give me a roll call.
Matt Carroll,
Yes.
Majid McClure,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Mayor Sellers,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith.
Yes.
All right, so how do we exit out to Julie?
Yeah, I'll set it up. You guys will just get an invite, so.
Okay. All right, there we go. All right, Bethman Starship Enterprise. All right, I'm gonna ask for a motion to exit executive session, return to the meeting.
We don't need to do that. I think we're already back into the main meeting.
Oh, you don't have to close out your executive sessions?
No,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we came out of executive session. Yeah. I mean, so moved.
Thank you. Just you.
Last time's new business.
Right, yeah. So, we're moving to new business here.
Yes.
Any new business?
You're the bird.
Yeah. So no new business, hearing none. So we're all aware, the next quarterly meeting is on Friday, April 22nd, at 8:30 a.m. We have not decided is it virtual or in person. So just be aware. I know Julia keep us well informed of which direction we're going to go.
Will do.
In
All right.
person, we got a lot of good grub.
All right. Hearing nothing other on the agenda, it is Friday. I'm gonna wish everybody a great weekend. Thank you for your time this morning, right? And you know, if you got
Thanks, everybody.
if you live on the east side, you'll be shoveling today, so you'll be okay.
Even
All right.
Independence, he'll be shoveling. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thanks,
weekend.
everybody.
Hey, guys.